Okay.
Caleb, I swear to God, if I see a single
You had to mention something, Neil. Hi, welcome to the Reactaholics.
Hi, I'm Neil. Welcome to Reactaholics. This is Chris. I mean, fuck, Chris isn't vocal. This is Callum. Hi, Callum. Say something.
I'm giving up on you.
Me too. Mel's also here. Mel, say something.
Penguin. Do penguins have knees?
Do they? Wait. Hold on. Do they?
That's the conundrum. They're like how we started this episode.
Fuck Reactaholics. Let's talk about this. Just throw the whole video away. Oh, also, the number one comment has been answered. Everybody's saying, "Where's Ron?" He's right there. In the woods.
Yes, using our high-tech technology, we managed to locate Ron. He is in these woods somewhere.
We have sent a small boy and his mother to try and find him, but they've both come back scared. They said that they asked him to review a movie, and then according to them, he said no and frightened them.
Apparently, he went berserk when he heard that they were making a Funko Pop movie, so he burned a whole pile of Funko Pops to keep him warm.
Well, no. That's actually false information. You see, I tried to get him to burn a pile of Funko Pops live on camera, but he wouldn't do it. In fact, some may say I dared him to do it. In fact, some may say there's a whole episode of the show where I did that on camera. And he didn't do it. I like how Ron got the biggest intro.
Right.
And he's not here. Yeah. Also, I am Dr. Knealetapus. I'm a guy. I do things. Like, I do things. All right, we got that out of the way.
Yeah.
For the record, in case you couldn't get the context clues, Chris just pressed the button while we were talking.
You know, it's funny. You were actually mentioning, people can get insight into our casual conversations before the show. And then Chris must have said, wish granted. Boop.
Yeah.
Right.
But at that point, I was like talking about like literally, okay, so we're going to do this for the show. So it was literally like, when he pressed the button, it was just like us foreshadowing what we were just about to do.
As the saying goes, Neil, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it.
I wish for a Japanese girl who's super into Power Rangers and likes obese white dudes.
That's not a bad wish.
Wait, did it really start with the puppet thing?
For those of you who didn't...
Is it still going? Okay. Let's try to find the formula here. So...
Alright. I think I'll start off first by just like getting... Since we all agreed that we need to get back to like, you know, our Stardust roots... I thought like an interesting poll that I just pulled up, and don't worry, I'm going to be hopefully doing more reactions soon. Getting back into speed, but apparently there's the latest poll of which is the better Adam Sandler's film. It's between Happy Gilmore and Big Daddy. What's your guys'?
It's Happy Gilmore.
The golf foot, that's a classic one.
Yeah, Happy Gilmore is a classic. I mean, Big Daddy's funny. It's got a lot of good stuff to it. But Happy Gilmore, like, I watched that a couple months ago. And it's still really funny, like, watching him fight Bob Barker. Watching him look at the golf hole and just going, "That's your home! Why don't you want to go in your home?" Like, of the two movies, like, I'm going to be honest, I don't remember a lot of quotes from Big Daddy, but I remember a ton from Happy Gilmore. So I think since it's the more memorable film and people do view it as a classic, and my God, it made golf interesting. I mean, it's obviously the winner in my eyes.
Yeah. You're gonna eat it. Do you eat it?
Right. Well,
No.
Go ahead, Callum. What's your take on the poll?
No, I was just giving another quote there.
Oh, okay. Well, apparently you're not the only one who feels that way, Neil, and I'm pretty sure that Callum just pulled it up, but majority ruled 75%, thought Happy Gilmore was better, and only 25% said that Big Daddy was better. And I mean, I have to agree, but I also too think that Happy Gilmore was like at the height of the Happy Madison productions, where everybody still loved the Happy Madison productions. And I think Big Daddy was just the start of when people started being like, oh, this is it. I used to find this funny. And I'm not saying it's a bad movie. Like, there's way worse, Happy Madison movies out there, like Jack and Jill. Obviously was a really terrible one.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
I think like Big Daddy was like the start of people actually kind of opening their eyes, unless they're like pure Happy Madison like fans, or just like pure Happy or Adam Sandler fans that they don't care as long as Adam Sandler's in it. But I think it was the beginning of an era of majority people being like, hey, this actually isn't really funny anymore.
I mean,
it's not bad.
The final thing I'll say is I feel like Happy Gilmore is an Adam Sandler movie that really takes advantage of the fact that it's an Adam Sandler movie. And unfortunately, a lot of Adam Sandler movies don't do that. Like, a lot of Adam Sandler movies are like, oh, we're going to write him a joke that pretty much anyone could tell. Or we're just going to have Adam Sandler act weird. And in Happy Gilmore, it just really worked.
Yeah,
like, I don't think it would have been nearly as iconic if anyone except for Adam Sandler played Happy Gilmore.
I mean, there's been terrible Adam Sandler movies, but there's been some good ones. There was one where he called 51st Dates, where it's an intriguing comedy/drama about him going on a woman who has amnesia. That was quite intriguing.
Oh, I saw that. I thought it was pretty neat.
Yeah.
Right. I just, like I said, I think it was, it depends on really the era, because I think with, most films like the Happy Madison ones, or productions, it's pretty much like you see the change, and kind of like what you just said, being like there's a lot of shitty Happy Madison productions and shitty Adam Sandler movies, but that was like later on, whereas like I think Happy Gilmore was one of the few of his in a way early start of it that you saw why it was good at first, but now it's we don't know if we'll ever get the magic of the old days back like Happy Gilmore, but I have to agree, Happy Gilmore out of the two, like I said, I don't think Big Daddy's the worst. But
Can I say two very controversial things?
Sure.
Okay, number one, and I think this is the one I'm going to get the most hate for. I like both grown-up movies. I like them both. I thought they're fine. They made me laugh. They're stupid and they're nothing, but they're funny, so who gives a shit?
I'll give you like some leeway on the first one. I thought the first one was, in my opinion...
Oh, I like the second one better.
I'm one of the people who's just like, no.
Just a bunch of celebrities doing weird shit together. That was great. I don't know. Maybe I'm a pig. Maybe I'm a dumb pig.
Maybe you're foolish, maybe you're swine. Don't you foolish and living behind.
We're not promoting TikTok, we're promoting Stardust.
That was a very fitting song, though. Did you say maybe I'm foolish, maybe I'm swine?
Yeah.
That's a good play. But the second controversial thing, which I feel like the first one, people are going to be like, oh, Neil, you're an idiot. But with this one, people might be like, yeah, he's kind of right. I think Jim Carrey movies are better than Adam Sandler movies.
Yeah, that goes without saying.
Yeah.
I love Jim Carrey.
I don't think that's really controversial. I think that's more of a people just don't say it a lot of the time out loud.
The only reason I brought it up is because literally when you were like Happy Gilmore, Big Daddy, I was like, can I pick The Mask? And I was like, that's not Adam Sandler, but can I pick The Mask?
Yeah, but that was also not a Happy Madison production at all.
Yeah, but I still want to pick The Mask just because, I feel like Adam Sandler could have played that part in The Mask. So I was like, I mean, Jim Carrey in The Mask is basically playing as Adam Sandler with impressions.
And I have to disagree just because, like, I felt it was Jim Carrey playing a very lighter tone of The Mask because, of course, a lot of people don't know the movie was based on a very dark, like, way more darker comic book. And technically, his adaptation of The Mask, the character technically died, the first owner, but it was the era and the time being like, well, we're not going to make it too dark, but we're still going to make it like dark enough where it can be played in theaters. And I always view that Jim Carrey always played as just him. Like, I've never really compared him to anybody else. Same with Adam Sandler, like, especially back in the day where, he was on Saturday Night Live, he brought his own, uniqueness to him. So I would have to disagree of being like, I don't think Jim Carrey played an Adam Sandler, and I honestly don't think that Sandler could play that role. Like, I would rather have seen Chris Farley play that role. God rest his soul.
I would have liked that too. I would have loved to see Chris Farley try to be The Mask. But let me just explain my mind process. Okay, just hear me out. In the movie, there are a lot of weird voices that's going on, seemingly out of nowhere, kind of Adam Sandler-ish. There's a musical number right in the middle of the thing, which is very out of nowhere, kind of Adam Sandler-ish. And also, it just sort of has this vibe and kookiness that definitely reads to me. Sandler could do this shit. Especially because back then it would have been like a young Adam Sandler.
True. But could Adam Sandler be as wacky and stretchy as Jim Carrey? Jim Carrey owned that role as The Mask.
I don't know. We'll never know.
Well, here's the thing, though, is that this is where I still have to semi-disagree with you on that, because Jim Carrey has always been more of a physical comedian, more so than Adam. Adam's, especially like old Adam's forte was like, music back in the day, for those who've, watched him since he was young. And whereas Jim Carrey was always more of the physicality type, like if you saw him in Living Color, he was always pretty physical. So
I don't know.
Yeah, there might be like quirkinesses that they might have similarities, but that's also too, like, that's the one thing that a lot of comedians, especially like male comedians, tend to do is, doing voices or, saying outlandish things and being kind of quirky. But you also have to break it down. Like, a lot of people have done physical comedy, but that's why I don't think that Adam would have been the great choice, because that was a lot of physical stuff that he had to do. And also to expressions, Jim Carrey hands down is way different than Adam.
I'm not denying that. Jim Carrey is the king of funny expressions. However, I would make the argument that Adam Sandler is good at making really freaking weird expressions.
I wouldn't say that. Like,
Tim Allen might have a run for his money when it comes to freaking Adam Sandler.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong, if we were doing that, but in my personal opinion, I think, like, Stardust made a good choice on this one, because I've seen, like, a lot of polls on Stardust come and go. Some, majority rule, there's like, yeah, that's pretty much common sense. This movie's clearly the better one. And then there's, others that's just like, why did you pick this? You can't compare the two. And then there's the ones that's just like, really? Why did this one win? But this one, I think, is the one of the first former of being like, hey, that's a duh that Happy Gilmore would be the better Adam Sandler movie in comparison to at least those two.
I mean, yeah, I definitely think that The Best Man took the trophy in terms of the ballot. But
Right.
with that, are we done with the poll?
I think if I were to say, sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. We're done with the poll, but another like huge Stardust topic that's on the rise, and I know we talked about this briefly in the last episode, but since it's released, Joker's really killing it.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up in the news, and because of that, I'm going to segue to the news real fast. Ladies and gents, I am Neil Burris. I am currently carrying your news. I'm not as good as Ronald Smith. Don't be surprised if I miss something. But just be aware that as long as I'm giving you the news, you will know one thing that you probably already knew. And with that, I have to agree with Mel, who already said it. Yeah, Joker's killing it. Like, it is coming out swinging.
Right. It's all over the Stardust platform. It's also, too, featuring in other stuff, too, like Instagram, any social media you can think. It's just killing it right now. And
it's getting really good reviews.
Right. I think right now on Stardust, since I have it up, so far, the general Stardust poll, 94% of people love the movie, and at least in my friends group, it shows 88%. So I don't know if you guys have seen the movie yet. Eli and I are actually trying to work on finding a way to at least catch this in theaters, because it does look intriguing. And yes, I have my own fears about it, but then again, it's just like, I have to see it for myself. But if you guys haven't seen it, are you going to? And if you have seen it, what did you think?
I have seen it. I thought it was rather spectacular. It's got a bit of higgledy-piggledy controversy, just simply because it's got a mixed audience. It's almost like Marmite. You're either going to love it or you're just not quite going to love it. Me, I absolutely adored it. It was a great different take on the Joker, and Joaquin Phoenix's performance was astounding. It was a great cautionary tale on how society treats people who are mentally ill, and there's great bits of cinematography, other great pieces. Some people say, oh, it gets carried away with its artiness sometimes. Ron pointed that out in some of his reviews. But me and Ron still gave it 5 stars nonetheless. It was intriguing from beginning to end, and it was quite shocking. Not that it was overly violent, but just due to the subject matter combined with the realistic tone and the violence. I think that's what caused all the mishap.
Well, then that will lead to my next question, and then we'll get to Neil in a second. But so yeah, that was one of the things I heard was they did a depiction of how society treats mental illness. What is if you were to break it down, since you've seen the movie, did you think that they did a good representation, or is there anything that you wish they would have touched on more, or it was? Yeah. You get what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Well, I heard that Joaquin Phoenix actually took time to do some research into people with psychosis, I think. And basically, he adds this element to the character where he has literally uncontrollable laughter. Whenever he's stressed out, whenever he's in an intense situation, or whenever he's upset about something in particular, he'll just hysterically laugh and he can't control it. One of the first few scenes, he's basically getting fired, and if you'll permit me using the camera, you can just see him going. You can tell deep down inside that something's wrong, but he's uncontrollably bring out this smile, just like. And there's many other scenes like that. You can tell he's not mentally well, and. I mentioned last week the scene where he was laughing and the guy says, hey, what's wrong with you? He turns around. I can now explain that in a bit more detail without giving too much away. But basically, these guys are mugging a woman in a wrong way. And he's just laughing away at the situation. They look at him and he goes, no. As if, no, I'm not laughing at you. but he keeps doing it again and again, and he's constantly like, no, honestly, I'm not laughing at you. I'm honestly not. Not that he says that, but he's just doing that with a gesture. And there's many other bits like that. And other bits of mental health. I suppose the fact that the society treats him badly and they cut off his funding, and then he chooses to do the things that he chooses to do in response to how negatively society has treated him. Yeah, it's quite scary in a different sense. People have been comparing Joaquin Phoenix to Heath Ledger, and I have too, and I think he's equally as disturbing as Heath Ledger for different as well as similar reasons. Joaquin Phoenix is more disturbing because he's more relatable. That's kind of what makes him frightening and fascinating in this adaptation. And of course, there's many other elements that go into it. But yeah, Joaquin Phoenix was just amazing.
All right, Neil, any thoughts? Have you seen the movie? Are you planning on seeing the movie? And what are your opinions about it thus far from what you've heard and or seen?
I do plan to see it. I have not seen it. However, sad face, the movie has greatly been spoiled for me.
Aww.
So I happen to know the majority of the twists and turns. I won't speak too much about it, but
yeah,
I because I haven't seen the movie, so I don't really have an opinion.
Yeah. Oh, also, if I were to mention one last thing before we move on, I was quite attached to this film because I really love how this is a standalone movie, and as its own movie, it's pretty strong and provoking. And I don't know if this is going to lead into Robert Pattinson's Batman or something. I have no idea. But either way, on its own, it's quite striking.
Right. Well, with me, which is probably one of the reasons why I haven't been on Stardust as of late, just because it's like, unlike Neil, it's just like, when it comes to a movie that I have interest in seeing, I try to stay away from the spoilers as far as possible. Like, the most that I'll, hear is like, hey, is the movie good? And being like a simple yes or no answer, and then be like, okay, cool. If there's changes, I would like to know if it's like something that was based on a source material, but since this is a standalone,
yeah,
I'm quite intrigued in seeing it. And so far, it's just like killing it right now, and I have to see what the hype's all about. So I'm hoping that I can see it soon.
Whether you call it a masterpiece or maybe not so good, it's definitely causing discussions.
I do want to say this. I now know spoilers about the movie, but the concerns I brought up are still, in my mind, valid. Like, essentially, here's my view, and I think this is what I was trying to say in the last episode, and I think I did, but I think I should be a little more blunt about it. If this is what you wanted, I am super happy for you, but it's not what I wanted. So my opinions on the movie, just even knowing these spoilers, are, hey, I'm happy everyone else is enjoying it, but it was never going to be like, it wasn't something that ever strongly appealed to me. Like, I didn't need.
That's actually kind of ironic on your part, because in episode 2 of Reactaholics, you actually said you were really looking forward to this adaptation.
I mean, that's a trailer. That was based on the first trailer. And I was like, and actually, I don't even know if the trailer was out at that point. I just heard that Joaquin Phoenix was playing the Joker. It's not ironic. It's, I saw, like, for the record, I thought Joaquin Phoenix was a good casting, and that was my opinion. But when I actually saw the trailers, I sort of came to the conclusion, okay, I'm sure people will like this, but this isn't necessarily the movie I want. I think I said that I liked the trailers because I did like the trailers, but because for what it is, it's good, but it's just not what I want. So at the same time, it's a situation of you could bake me the best cake in the world, But if it's the kind of cake I don't like, I'm not going to eat it.
That's a good description.
I'm still going to go see the movie, but at the same time, since it isn't necessarily what I wanted, just preconceptions. I haven't seen the film yet. Who knows? Maybe it secretly will be like, hey, Neil, here's some things you really like, and I'll sing a different song. But just based on what I know, based on what I've seen, I don't think I'm going to dislike the movie. I think I'm just going to be like, okay, it's a new version.
I suppose if I were to say another thing, I think it's just refreshing just to see a superhero movie with a different style and doesn't shove extended universes down your throat. It's just its own movie.
I mean, to people who have been complaining about that, I'm glad you have this movie, but I actually love that shit. So, I love it when I hear a name of a comic book character that I know later becomes a superhero, and I'm just like, oh, like when they said Dr. Stephen Strange and Winter Soldier, right? And I was like, it's happening. Doctor Strange is going to get a movie.
No, I'm a similar way, but I think overall it's, and I've heard a bit of the controversies myself. I think the biggest one I've heard without having it get into spoiler territory is the stuff with the mental illness. And I'm kind of, 50-50 just from what I've heard. I do believe, and I've always have believed, because I'm pretty sure that everybody in this, chat or in this podcast has a bit of their own issues with mental health or with, their own mental routine and what they struggle with day by day. And I do believe that mental health should be advocated and it should be talked about more. But I think it depends on the approach of how you do it. The one thing that I'm a little bit scared about seeing from what I've heard is that I've heard from some, and it's the only thing I've heard without getting into spoiler territory at all, was that it kind of glorified mental health. I don't know. That's just what I've heard. They could be blowing,
I've heard some other reviews saying that it merely depicts certain severe things, but go on.
Right.
Yeah, based on what I know, that seems to be some people are saying that, but based on the spoilers I know, which I'm pretty sure I know everything, it definitely it doesn't say this is a good thing, do this.
Exactly.
No, it just shows it. And
exactly.
There isn't a thing at the end where it's you can be the Joker. Sort of like what there was with Spider-Verse.
Right. Well, and I've heard that version of it. I've also heard where it, gives mental health kind of a bad thing. I've heard it all, but like I said, they didn't get into spoiler territory with me of how, because I asked, the few that brought up to my attention, being hey, I haven't seen the movie. It's one of the first movies in a long while that I actually want to see in theater, since, I kind of have the ability to do that now. But it's like I said, it could be that that's true. It could be that they're just blowing smoke up my skirt. Because there's also some of those people who will lead you astray in spoiler territory. Eli, for example, he didn't see he hasn't seen Endgame yet. And he heard, when we all know, because we've all seen Endgame at this point, that he heard that Thor was the one who died. And we all know that's not true. For those who haven't yet seen the film, at least know that. And that's all I'm going to say. But he
secretly
heard that
Thor does die, but you don't know it because I changed reality.
Whatever.
Spoilers are inevitable.
But I only corrected him, and I think that's the only time that you should spoil anything or come close, is if if you've seen the source material, and if you heard somebody who hears from someone else saying, "Oh, this is what happened in the movie," and you have to correct that, but then he asked me who did die, and I was that I can't say, but I can confirm Thor is not the big one that dies, and that's it. So, like I said, people could be blowing smoke up my skirt. People could actually be telling me, but either way, it's just let me see the movie, let me get my own opinion about it, and who knows? Like I said, I'm all about advocacy for mental health, because as myself, and I can't speak for everybody here, I suffer with, my own mental health stuff, especially people's history. But I I'm also not the type that likes when it's glorified, and I'm not just saying being like, oh, this is a good thing, but pretty much like glorifying it also too in the sense of, hey, you shouldn't judge somebody for, like blowing up a school because of their mental health, for example. Like, because there's different ways of glorifying, that. It's like, for example, the one thing about any adaptation of the Joker that I don't like being glorified is Joker and Harley's relationship.
Yeah.
Way too much.
I have opinions about that too.
That's why Suicide Squad didn't work.
No. I think there are a lot of reasons why Suicide Squad didn't work.
There was way more reasons why that movie didn't work.
Yeah.
That the ultimate glorification of their relationship in that was one of the problems. I don't think it was like the hugest problem, but I don't think it was like the lowest problem either. But that's what it's like when you glorify like a bad thing and trying to make it like or romanticize it. And because in reality, that relationship is not good, and you hear about it on news or talk shows or shit, even reality TV shows, which I think I think that's like the AIDS of television. Personally, is reality TV shows.
All right.
All this talk about mental health has inspired me for an improvised topic. I guess this is my first topic for the night.
Whoa. We're still in the news. I know we've been discussing a lot, but we're still in the news. You get off of this. This is my thing. How dare you? All right.
But anyway, Neil and I haven't seen it. Neil unfortunately got spoilers of it. I have not yet, just a little bit of whispers. But I'm hoping that the movie's, it lives up to its hype, because I think a lot of movies suffer from that, where the hype's too much. Like, for example, I'm one of the few who don't like it, at least chapter 1. Have not seen chapter yet. And
it's hilarious.
I'm sorry. I'm going to save my pennies to watch the Joker movie and wait for it to either come out on Netflix or DVD.
I'm just saying, as someone who has seen it, chapter 2, just real fast, I'll say this real fast, then I'll say the news I've got. If you go in expecting a horror movie, you might not like it. If you go in wanting to be entertained, you're probably going to love it. Because it's very funny. I mean, they amped up the Tim Curry, if that means anything. But, okay, so back to the news. Hey, Callum, you remember how in the last episode we taught you about who Kevin Feige is?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that complete stranger you knew nothing about is now doing something else that's big. He's going to be doing a Star Wars movie.
Ooh.
Or potentially a franchise. So the man behind Marvel, he's not the only person, but the big producer, the man of Marvel, is going to do some Star Wars shit.
Power to him.
We know nothing. Everybody is sort of wondering if it's going to be an original series. I know that Favreau did a lot of episodes of friggin' The Mandalorian. So it's not like this is the first Marvel Star Wars sort of crossbreed behind the scenes that we've had. But this is probably the biggest, to where Kevin Feige is actually going to... I mean, there are articles saying Kevin Feige is so busy with Star Wars. I'm just wondering if this means Marvel's going to slow down a bit, or if it means Kevin Feige's involvement is going to be lesser, which I don't know if I like. But that being said, it is happening regardless, and I'm curious to see what he does. Any opinions?
I haven't heard this news yet. And also, too, as, people should know, I haven't seen anything Star Wars related since Rogue One. I haven't seen episode 7 yet. I have not seen episode 8. I've heard a lot of stuff with the Star Wars franchise as is, which as a Star Wars fan before already causes me to like go a little bit of astray. So I have to treat anything Star Wars related now kind of with a grain of salt. I do plan on seeing episode 7 and episode 8 and the Solo film just to get myself up
Mel,
to speed.
I think the more appropriate term is take everything with a grain of sand.
Oh God.
No, I don't like sand, Caleb. I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough, and it gets everywhere.
Right. Good thing Ron's not here. But anyway.
He's still in the woods.
I know. That's what I mean. He's out doing his own thing in the woods. But as somebody with me is that I have to tread caution for being out of the loop for a while. Like I said, I have not seen anything since Rogue One. So I am pretty behind. I am trying to catch up with a lot of shit that I've missed out with the year and 4 months that I had no access to really much anything. So, but I do plan on watching at least those 3 to at least catch up to speed. But as of right now, it's just like I have to treat as a Star Wars fan and will always be a Star Wars fan, no matter how shitty or disappointing that, the franchise has become, I still have to treat it with a grain of salt. Being like, hey, if it's good, or sand, whatever, okay, tomato, but that's just my opinion, is that it sounds something that I would naturally be into because I am a Star Wars fan, but that's pretty much it. There's no other weight or merit, and I have to treat it with a grain. Being like, hey, this is really
Mel,
good.
In case of an emergency, when you get to watch episode 8, just try putting your expectations down just in case.
No.
Oh no,
it's not the proper way. She goes into that movie with what she's got.
And I have I heard the only thing that I heard from at least like the 3 I mentioned was I heard 7 was kind of like it was a lukewarm kind of situation where it's like people didn't love it, but people didn't hate it. And then of course I think it was one of our few episodes where we had Stephanie, which I would like to, catch up with her and have.
Please come back to the show, Minute Movie Pop, please.
I actually talked to Stephanie the other night.
Oh, nice.
I've been meaning to send her like a message or waiting for, but that's beside the point. But
Shout
with that episode, but with episode 8, and that was the first time I heard about it was through that episode. And if you guys don't know the episode, it's in our YouTube channel. Go check it out. But I heard that was the one that split the franchise pretty much in half, which to me was really, well, here's the thing, is that before episode 8 came out, that was the only split of the franchise I saw was being like, you're either on the, light side or the dark side, or you're a Jedi or you're Sith. And that's pretty much it. Otherwise, there was like, mutual agreement, right? Being like, everyone agreed that the first 3, episodes 4 through 6, are the best, and then the prequels were the worst. Everybody seemed to be mostly in consensus, from the movies to the characters to everything. And then hearing that this one split the franchise even further apart down the middle, it was hugely disappointing to hear.
Great imbalance of the force.
But, and then I heard obviously that Solo bombed really bad. And it was a huge disappointment, which shocked me because it was like, Rogue One, in my opinion, is one thing. I just viewed it as an unnecessary film to make, and that's just my opinion. I don't think it's a terrible film, but
calm down, Cal. Calm down.
Like it. But I just don't like it. It was kind of unnecessary to make, such a short story into, an hour to 2 hour film. The only good thing about that film that I will still tell people is the Darth Vader scene. That's the best scene of the entire movie. And I wish it was longer. I
mean,
wish.
I like the Chirrut intro scene. For those of you who probably know, if you watch the show, Rogue One's my favorite Star Wars movie. I think I like the Chirrut intro scene, but you can't compare anything to Darth Vader in the hallway.
No, you can't. Like, best scene. And if they made the movie entirely around him, I would have been much more happier. But I digress. I don't think it's like the worst one because, like I said, there's the prequels. That's got it beat. But hearing that Solo did worse than Rogue One was a mind boggle, being like, how can you fuck this up? But I haven't seen it yet. So it's just like, my opinions are going to be, out there once I do. But in the meantime, it's just like anything Star Wars related at the moment, I'm just going to, ease in, take it with a grain of sand. So that way I doesn't say it again. And that's just it. So hearing this new information is just like, I'm just going to treat it like episode 7, 8, and Solo. Just going to walk in with, with that mindset. I'm not going to have my expectations high. I'm not going to have them low. I'm just going to be pretty much, neutral.
Good.
I was trying to think of more news. This is the only other thing I can think of. So I don't know if I mentioned this on the show, but there were at least at one point plans to make several Spider-Man shows that may or may not have been on Netflix. And I guess an extension of that is that along with Morbius and maybe Kraven the Hunter, Madam Web will be getting a movie. And as somebody who knows who Madam Web is, I can't help but think, why? Because
well, if you know the comic book lore, she was going to show up no matter what, and she kind of does play a role in the Spider-Verse, or at least like anybody.
I agree. Like I think she should be in the animated Spider-Verse sequel. I think that would be fine. But Madam Web is getting, at least as far as we know, a live-action movie. Just about her.
Well, I'm sure that it's, it's going to pretty much like focus on, I don't think it's just going to focus on her if that's the case, because she essentially became, for a little bit of time, Spider-Man's mentor. So yeah. I know that Spider-Man's going to play a huge part, or at least the Peter Parker version is going to play a huge part in that, standalone. I mean, do I agree that it should be like a very long movie? No, I think maybe about an hour and a half, just so that way people know who she is, might be fine. But I know Mel, it doesn't. Go ahead.
I agree with you. I would say, oh yeah, I totally want to see a movie about Madam Web where she's like mentoring Peter and shit like that. But we live in a world that's post-Venom. They did the Venom origin story without Spider-Man in it. I can't help but be scared that they're going to try to do Madam Web without Spider-Man.
Well, I think you also have to think of the eclectic events that's happened since the Venom movie. Now Marvel has the right to Spider-Man, or at least they came with a negotiation with Sony. Because I think that's where the Venom movie, and I haven't seen it yet. I'm working on it. If you guys want to send me money, to finally see it, by all means. It's not on Netflix yet. It's not on Hulu. Eli's paying for that shit. And we're also using another person's Prime account at the moment, which is actually his brother's account. So we're not going to rent it on another person's account. So that's my excuse. It's just like, unless I go down to the Gorehound, which for those who live in Colorado, go check it out. It's one of the last movie rental places on earth, and it's awesome. But unless I rent it from there, I'm not seeing the Venom movie anytime soon. I have no desire, and I think the problem with Venom, from what I've heard, though, is that because Sony still owed the rights to a lot of the Spider-Man, properties, and Marvel at the same time got a little bit of the right to just Spider-Man. That's where it failed, from what I've heard. And this time, though, it's like Sony and Marvel came to, a compromise or a negotiation. So I don't think that Spider-Man will be out of this one. I think because the times have changed since Venom came out.
I agree with you. But from a purely profitable standpoint, Venom made $1 billion. From a purely profitable standpoint, if I'm a businessman and I see, this movie with a Spider-Man character without Spider-Man in it did fine, I would go, it made $1 billion. We can do that again.
We've got to have money.
I realize, from a reviewer standpoint, and I agree with this, Venom had a lot of issues, but it made $1 billion. So end of the day,
oh boy,
there's a businessman working for Sony right now who's like, okay, just do the same thing with Madam Web. And that's my fear.
Specifically the evil businessman.
Yeah, me. I mean, who is that? I don't know who that is. I've never met him. I don't know what you're talking about.
I met him during a special occasion, but anyway, moving on. Should we move on to topics now?
Well, I definitely agree with everything Mel said. I hope to God that's what the Madam Web movie is if it happens. But I would not be surprised if we see a trailer and Spider-Man's not in it. And her importance to the Spider-Verse, Mel's right about that too. I knew she was going to show up eventually.
Sorry. So what happened?
Did your audio go out?
No, it was I was trying to send a message on Instagram because still at the moment my phone shut off, at least until able to pay for it. And then out of nowhere it tried making a phone call. Even though it's I can't call people.
I think we'll just discuss this after the podcast because I think we should move on to topics now.
I hate to agree with Callum, but this is an off. I hate to agree with Callum because he's smelly. But this is we are in the show, so we got to go for it. No wrongdoing, though. No wrongdoing.
So,
and you're smelly, Callum, and I don't like your nose.
Yes.
Well, to wrap up the Stardust stuff and all that, I think to get back into the old swing of things is I think that one of you should shout out one person in the Stardust thing quick and then move on what we used to do.
I would like to specifically shout out somebody, and I know this could be considered a cop-out, but there's a very specific reason and I'm shouting out this person. I'm going to shout out John Bailey, the epic voice guy. And the reason I'm doing it is because, John, what the hell? You're going to be in Indiana next week. Fucking come over.
Oh, brilliant.
Just come over. I will feed you.
Him and his family. That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
So one of you should crop that and post it on your Instagram and tag John Bailey.
I'll do that.
I had no idea he was going to Indiana, but then again, I haven't really talked to him in a while since we've been on our weird.
He's doing it might be work stuff. That's why I haven't messaged him. He's doing a convention.
Well, still tag him.
It'd be cool to see him.
Right, we did on getting him back on the show, when we actually have a scheduled episode, I think, after Mr. Robinson, but that's beside the point. But yeah, Callum, is there anybody?
Callie, you got a shout out?
Yes, I do. Just give me a moment. Mel, do you want anybody to shout out to?
I think I will shout out like minutemoviepop or Stephanie. I do miss your face. I do like the fact of when we talked for a little bit and would like to get you more. And I have seen some of your reactions, and yeah, you're killing it, my chick, my little sunshine. And I also like the fact that she's not like, because when I first met her, she gave like almost every movie a positive review. Hence the joke, and we already explained that joke in one of the episodes that she was in. But I'm now actually liking the fact that she's still nice about it, but she's not as much always like a positive, and actually speaking her mind a little bit more. But I think that's it's I get it, because you don't know when it comes to like giving out opinions these days who you're going to like piss off. I've already run into that several times as it is, but at the same time, she's like, it's just an opinion. They're not based on fact or fiction. Unless you're me, then I'm always right.
All right, I've got mine. So as for me, I'm going to give a shout out to the humble TWC from Stardust, because he recently gave a shout out to me via Stardust.
Stardust, it's time for another shout out Saturday, and today I am shouting out Scotswizard, one of my personal favorite dusters out here, and in my opinion, one of the funniest. Like, if you love cartoons, you'll love watching this guy. He does great voice impressions. He's super funny, super expressive, super passionate. Well worth a follow. So go check him out.
Mwah! Thank you, TWC.
Now we're going to get a million comments from every shout out. Why didn't you play one of my reactions?
Why didn't you play one of my reactions? That's my reaction.
Didn't you say that? I already have a response. We're already trying to improve or like go through changes. Yeah. And hopefully maybe one day we can actually start, if we have, the technology and the will and the patience for it, maybe post some of your actual shout outs.
Oh my god, Chris, look into this right now, please.
We've talked about this in the past. We will talk about it off screen.
Yes. I'm just clarifying it.
I'm just snapping at Callum to be funny. I'm not actually angry. I'm a nice Neil.
No, you're not. But anyway.
I'm a nice Neil.
No, you're not.
I like pancakes. Who's evil that likes pancakes?
You.
I can use several villains. But anyway, but I think the Stardust stuff has come to a wrap. So, topics. Topics.
Yeah. So who wants to go first? Callum, you said you improv'd something during the show.
Yeah. I didn't know what my second one was going to be, but I think I've got my first one. So, on the topic of mental health, in your experience, what is, in your opinion, the best interpretation of mental health that you've seen in a film or television show?
I'm going to piss people off.
You go first, because I need a minute.
So, it is never 100% said that this person has a mental illness. However, it's very strongly implied. And this might not be the best, but just Callum improv this topic off the top of my head. This is the first thing I thought of. I think her name is Sophie. That might not be her name, but the little girl from Pokemon 3, which, hear me out, is clearly in the show dealing with some, in the movie, is dealing with some separation anxiety. Like, to an extreme degree where she literally creates her own little world. And one of the reasons I think that this is a very good example of it is because it's basically what the plot is. Like, the plot is this little girl with separation anxiety gains godlike powers, and now we have to deal with it. And it's just a great story with some awesome scenes. And overall, they really handled, like, they never say, oh, this girl has something wrong. But her parents are divorced in the story. And her father goes missing. She develops separation anxiety. And then she gains this power. And of course, she's like, well, I want a mom. And she, like, takes somebody else's mom and, like, brainwashes them. And she's like, well, I want to be a Pokemon trainer because that's what's cool. So then she starts doing that. And then she's like, well, I just want us to stay here and never leave. And this giant crystal thing starts taking over the town. And it's just such an interesting way to visualize that sort of anxiety. Like, just seeing that and just thinking about this little girl and how they accomplished this with such beautiful animation. It really is something spectacular.
Who wants to go next, me or Mel?
I think I can go next.
Right,
for me, it's a tie between One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and The Virgin Suicides. I think it's such a hard thing to choose because there's a lot of movies that, you know, have touched on mental health that actually have done it right, and then there are a whole bunch more that have done it wrong. Like, I think one of the worst adaptations, even though I love the movie, but I think it was one of the worst, was Waterboy, since we're talking about Happy Madison. I think the film is, you know, fine. I don't think it was a good advocate for mental health. And I would have picked Forrest Gump, but I think that's just a, you know, all across the board of being like, that's not only a lot of people's favorite movies, but, you know, some, and I've heard like a little bit of controversy over that, but I pick One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Virgin Suicide, so I'll go with One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So, in my opinion, it was based around a time, because when it was released in 1975, a little bit after the Asylum era finally got its black mark on it. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that because of things like, you know, lobotomies, you know, shock therapy, conversion therapy, and the mental asylums back in the day were the huge culprits of it, have actually set back mental health research by 2 decades. At least that's what a lot of, you know, people who are psychologists, who are actual scientists, have confirmed, is that that era definitely left a black mark in mental health. Pretty much good. And when that came out shortly after the mental asylums finally, you know, were closing their doors and were revealed of how much of true monsters that these places were. And I think that not only did it actually like stem down of, you know, the basic like, okay, here's somebody with a, you know, with the basic like, you know, OCD, or here's somebody who has schizophrenia. Like, they pretty much got the basis down, but it also showed being like, you have to be mindful of those facilities because they don't treat, and I can't speak for a lot of mental health places now, like they're no longer called asylums, which is, you know, a good thing. And you don't know what actually goes on behind closed doors. And the way they portrayed it was an eerily accurate way of how they used to. Like, people would just throw away their loved ones in there just because they couldn't handle them. And unfortunately, they still got the bitter, you know, shit end of the stick with that. And I think Cuckoo's Nest represent like the really dark side of how these people are treated in those facilities. At least back then. I can't speak of how they are now. And you still hear like stories about it, but it's not as bad as it was. And I think it shed a light of, you know, we actually need to treat this better. They are still
people ought to be treated right.
Today. Yeah. And showing like the absolute horror of how these facilities used to treat and how actually society used to treat them, because, you know, even after the asylums were shut down, more than half the people end up being on the street and being homeless. So that's why I have more of a sympathy and, well, now more of an empathy because I was homeless and seeing some of those people from that era being homeless. It's just like they got the real short end of the stick on that. They weren't really given a chance at, life again because nobody didn't want to deal with them. Like, it also touches on me personally because my brother's autistic and he's not like, majority of autistic children. Like he can still read, he can still, talk, but he's more on the nose when it comes to certain things, especially when he's angry. And I don't like the way my parents have, approached it. Like at first they tried doing something about it, and then they just kind of threw their hands in the air and being like, hey, no, we tried our best. And it's like, you really didn't. And they just, like he has shelter at least. That's, a good thing. He doesn't live at home anymore, but my parents still like take care of the basic essentials for him, like pay his rent, buy him groceries without, if he couldn't get the aid of like Foothills Gateway, which is the mental, group that helps, those with any sort of, illness, be able to live in society. But they still treat him personally as though he's a nuisance. Like, for example, the last time I talked with my mom, she told me he was crying because he didn't take him to go to Florida. And because she's literally scared of him. And I've seen it firsthand. He's not, like I said, he's not the conventional, like, I guess you call it a stereotype. Because most people who know, who just focus on the stereotypes, they mostly focus on like the happy autistic, children. They don't really look at like people like my brother.
Hello?
Have his, rage out.
Mel, we're losing you.
Yeah, but
Mel, we're losing you.
Like
I don't think she can hear us.
Hello?
We're losing you.
I'm right here. Okay.
We can't hear you.
But just make that. Hold on. I know what.
Okay.
Callum, you want to go while we're waiting? I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you want to go?
I think Mel's a bit more to say, but I think I just want to say.
Hello, we can hear you now.
Hello? Okay.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, it was the Wi-Fi was starting to cut out here, so I had to turn it off.
Carry on about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Right, but the way that
final
family,
thoughts.
Final thought. So one who flew over the cuckoo's nest was, in my opinion, like the actual, it was a stem of how society treats our people with mental health. It doesn't matter if it's something like depression or something like, autism or Downs, is that there is a negative aspect. And I think that they released it at a perfect time where it was still relevant, and it still somewhat holds true to this day. And then we get to the virgin suicides, which this one will be shorter. I like the fact that they've shown that not everything is as concrete as it seems. Like, you could run into like the most beautiful girl in the world, right? Think that she's perfect in every single way, but you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And that each girl, because the movie starts off really dark, is that each of these sisters end up killing themselves in one way or another. But then as the movie progresses, it shows, how it got to that point. And it also shows being like, it doesn't matter how much, someone has a smile on their face, that you don't know what's actually going on behind that smile. And with these girls, they had, a very controlling environment of a family being like their parents want them to do certain things and all that. And I thought it was a really good, I think it showed being like not everybody wears their heart on their sleeve. or wears their emotions on their sleeve. Some of them prefer to hide it and being like, hey, you don't have to know what's going on with me. But then that also too can lead to like negative results. Like someone's mental health can, completely deteriorate, or they could, do the unspeakable. And I liked how it represented being like, hey, this isn't a glamorous thing. It's not a black and white thing. It's, hey, some people are more obvious than others, and you'd be surprised of anybody who you run into. You don't know what's going on with them, essentially. And I think it's more of because it opens up as a tragedy and you know that's going to be a tragedy, it still makes you sad towards the end because, the few people who actually saw what they went through, within, their ability actually try to save them. But by that time, it was too late. So that's my 2, and it's a tie. Like I said, right. It was a hard one to pick.
All right. And as for me, there are many adaptations of mental health, but the one that immediately comes to mind is the one and only humble mind of Riley from Inside Out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this is a film. This is a film that is perfect for discussing mental health because it's literally set in the mind of this girl going through adolescence. Well, I'm probably 13, and she's moving to a new place, and it's basically all about her dealing with that, as well her adapting to change. And this is set in her mind. And something a lot of people overlook is that the most complex character in the entire movie, when you really think about it, is Riley. All the personified emotions, memories, and childhood memories, that's all Riley. That's all Riley going through her emotions, all the conflict that's going on, that's Riley. This is her going through the turmoil and her learning to adapt to change. And for those of you who haven't seen the movie, I won't give anything away, but this is a brilliant movie just to say, hey, it's okay to be sad. You don't have to be happy 24/7. There's going to be scary things. There's going to be moments that you won't like, but the beauty of it all is that you can embrace certain emotions to get through those tough moments, because actually by being sad it can actually make certain moments better, and in fact opens up to new emotions, which makes you a much more emotionally healthy person. So it's okay to be angry or afraid or disgusted or sad. Just embrace all your emotions. I'm not saying you should become schizophrenic or anything, but just
too late. I've already started. You talked me into it.
But there's other little details in there, and I notice new details every single time I watch it, and it's so fascinating because they said, the Pixar team said that they had so many ideas for Inside Out they could not squeeze them all to the film. So there's a potential for a sequel, and I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, I have always said, I guess I started saying this after I saw Inside Out, but any movie that can make feeling sad a good thing is definitely like a very high caliber movie. All right, I think that's all our opinions on Callum's topic.
With
good
that, we'll
pick.
move on. Who's next?
Mel, you want to go next?
Sure. So, since we're still in the month of October, and Halloween is about the door, around the door, and I know we talked about a few things, but we didn't bring up this one, and I know that we'll, probably talk about more depending on how many, episodes we do before the month of October is out.
We're definitely going to do a Halloween thing.
Right. But here is my brief question to you, and, everybody has an opinion. What movie do you tend to avoid like the plague during Halloween?
Oh.
I don't know. Does it have to be for like a deep-seated personal reason?
It can be for whatever reason you want. Really, being like, if it's just, hey, it's, on too many times where I'm bored to death, or it could be a personal reason. It could be any reason why. I mean, this is a movie podcast about opinions, so.
I mean, I assume it has to be like a Halloween movie because, if we were just saying, no, it can be any movie just around Halloween, I would answer Meet the Feebles because that movie just makes me sad. At all times, that movie makes me sad. But I'm having trouble thinking of a specific movie that I just can't watch around Halloween time.
Oh, that's kind of easy. The Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
Oh yeah, that CGI is awful.
Everything about that remake was awful. I give it like one thing, but that's just because I'm a huge movie nerd about it, and that's the
fact. I need to charge my laptop.
Go for it, but otherwise, Do you
want to go first? Do you have something in mind?
I actually have one, and it's not that I avoid the entire movie completely, well, I guess I don't have like a specific movie. It's anything that's Halloween themed that has a certain subject matter. Mm-hmm. And for those who don't know me, it's anything that involves hanging, nooses, anything to do around the neck that is, like I'll give an example. So I can't watch anymore the scene where the Sanderson sisters from Hocus Pocus are executed in the beginning. That part I have to, and since we're also talking about mental health, it's because for those who don't know, I found my, boyfriend dead 2 years ago, and that was the way he did it.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So, which kind of led up to like, how my life's been since, like anytime that I even, like I can talk about the subject briefly, but then I try not having it, discussed any further. But so like, for example, Eli and I were watching Robin Hood Men in Tights, and I forgot the scene where they were having, the wedding/execution. And even though I have not been diagnosed by a doctor yet, just because majority of the time that's, money, but a lot of people have now believed since that I possibly have PTSD. I can't watch anything with the news.
So sorry for you.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I don't have a response to that anymore. I don't know what to say. It's nothing personal. It's, when you hear the I'm sorries or the, condolences, just don't know. And
this isn't something you got to talk about if you think it's hard or you're going to get emotional. I mean, I just don't want you to make yourself uncomfortable for the podcast.
No, that's why I'm trying to just have a deep breath moment. But it's not saying that I hate the movies. No, that's not the contrary. Like, it's a similar way with, Nightmare Before Christmas. I have to skip any scene that has that tree with the skeletons, like, at all, or anything that I see with the news. It's also like, even though this isn't a Halloween themed movie at all, but I can't watch the show Legion because not that long ago somebody wanted me to get into it and they didn't forewarn me, and he pretty much attempted the same way Tony did, but except for he survived. But that's my thing, is like, I can't pick a specific thing. I just can only be like, hey, I still watch those movies, but I have to, know exactly when those scenes are and just leave before they play. So, like, majority of This Is Halloween song, as much as I love the song, I watch the opening or anything that involves that tree, or I can't watch the execution scene in Hocus Pocus, like any subject matter like that, because I literally just, go back to that day that pretty much my life was destroyed. So,
yeah, I can't imagine that, and I definitely want to advertise that anything me and Callum pick probably isn't going to have nearly as big of effect on us as yours is, and I'm truly sorry for your loss. I know that you've probably heard that a ton, but, it's something to say. Because I just want you to know I care, and what happened was bad.
Yeah, and I did not know that I didn't know that was going to lead up to this point or change my life forever. But no, I know you guys care. And if it makes you feel any better, that's like the number one thing I don't wish upon any human being. I don't care who you are, if you're being like, no, because that stuff does change you. And it's not great.
With me, like, I guess if we're talking about specific scenes, obviously I don't have as much baggage with this, and I'm not saying baggage isn't a bad thing. Like, I'm just saying, like, this is just something that creeps me out. I don't have like a deep-seated history with this subject matter, like clearly Mel did with hers. But those scenes where like you're about to drag somebody away and then their nails break? I don't know why, but every time I see that, I like walk into the other room going like, nope. I just really don't like it when I see things happen with nails. And I guess eyeball things also get me. Like, almost to a lesser extent, though. Like, I just really don't like it when, like, the nails crack. It just sort of says to me, like, oh, no, why? Like, broken legs I can take. Broken arms I can take. Broken nails. For whatever the reason. Cannot take.
I have an even weirder thing that turns me off. I have a dislike, and this is going to sound really weird, but I have a large dislike for belly buttons.
Really?
Yeah.
That is a little weird, but what's a specific belly button scene?
I don't know, just like the first Matrix movie. It's not a horror movie, but the first Matrix movie, they get this robot thing. I'm just going, ugh, no, it's weird. Belly buttons are just weird.
You just don't like belly buttons?
It's just that, I love belly buttons, but it's just that when you touch them, it's just, no. Everyone has that weird, uncomfortable spot. Mine is belly buttons. It's just, no.
I definitely see, like, I've never thought, belly buttons. But I definitely see, like, if someone got stabbed in the belly button, that would suck. I hear a noise, a background noise. What is that? It sounds like a bottle.
I don't know.
Is it you?
No, I'm just sitting still.
Well, the way you said I don't know, I just instantly thought, Mel has like a bongo drum, and she's just fucking with me.
This actually happened in the last episode.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's gone. All right. Well, I think we can move on to the next topic. Wow, we talked about mental health, and we had that talk, and now mine's like just stupid. Mine's just who's the best Ninja Turtle. Like, it's definitely a drop. But these are characters, for better or worse, that have been in media for a very long time now. They are constantly changing, and I am here to ask you which one of the main four is the best. You can pull from any interpretation from the character in your argument. You can also do that when you're arguing against. Like if someone's like, oh, well, I think that Leonardo is really cool in the Nickelodeon series. Someone could go, yeah, but in the movie he's kind of shitty. And shit like that. We actually talked off screen and me and Mel played a game to see who got who. I will be taking Leonardo, who is not who I wanted, but I'll be taking him. Cal, who will you be taking?
I'll take Mike.
And Mel, who do you have that I wanted?
Donatello.
I wanted Donnie. And since Chris is here, Chris will be the judge this time. Callum, are you going to stay during this debate, or are you going to disappear halfway through like what happened with Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw?
I've got time.
Not even kidding. I poured my heart out into the Hufflepuff thing, so hopefully I can pull out a win for Leonardo.
I know. I'm not expecting to win, but I'm at least going to give a convincing case that Mike is awesome.
You're going to give a good old college try.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody want to be the first to make an opening argument?
Calipunkative.
Okay, that's you volunteering, Cal. You go first.
Yep.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Mike, really? The goofball who doesn't provide much for the team? Actually, he does. He provides a lot of humor, and he's part of the family. And whenever they need to lay back, you always got good Michelangelo just to give him a good pizza or two. Not to mention, he's amazing with skateboarding, and he even worked here and there in various jobs. I believe, I think in that 2007 TMNT movie, he was some kind of weird mascot for the children. So he's an every guy. That's my opening statement.
All right. Mel, do you want to go next, or should I?
You go ahead.
Leonardo leads, ladies and gentlemen. Anytime the Turtles succeeded, Leonardo, one way or another, played a hand in that success. We have seen in the Nickelodeon CGI series that Leonardo went through a bit of an arc to properly become the leader who he's supposed to be. And by the end of the series, his brothers trust him in a way that some leaders can only dream of. Yeah, Leo makes mistakes, but you know what? Everybody makes mistakes. Donatello makes mistakes. Raph makes mistakes more than anybody else. And Mikey, of course, makes mistakes too. I would say there's a reason that Leo is the leader and Leo was chosen by Splinter. But in the end, I think much like Michelangelo, Leonardo brings a heart and also a sternness to the team that Mikey actually lacks. I think that Leonardo, out of the four turtles, is probably the most stable. And in terms of being a leader, I think Leo is one of the main reasons that the Turtle Boys will always have our backs.
Mel?
Well, for one, if you think Leo is the most stable, then you're funny, because that has to go to my boy Donatello. Because not only is he the brains and yes, the gadget guy, but he's also too the most underrated. Most of the time he tries to be, and you can argue too that Michelangelo also too plays this part, but they do it in different ways. Donatello's the voice of reason between the two, and also too, without him, they wouldn't have the cool gadgets, and instead would still be, flailing their weapons around if they didn't have like the tanks and all that. So he's the best because he's just the brains, and he's also too level-headed than the rest of them.
Is that the end of your opening statement?
Yeah, I'm saving.
All right, so we can go into arguments. We can go into defenses if we wish. Cal, if you would like to go first, You can attack whoever you'd like. Also, don't be afraid to pull from the Turtles' history.
Yeah, we'll do. I'm going to surprise both of you at once. Mel, didn't I recall you saying that Leo was kind of boring?
Yes.
Yeah, that's my main argument. For as good as Leo is, Leo's kind of bland.
I picked Leo, Callum.
Yes, I know you did. That's why I'm
okay, you're arguing against me. Well, when you said Mel, I thought you thought that Mel picked Leo. Where is Leo?
I was surprising you there. So, Leo, a good leader. I respect that. But he's also kind of bland, which may not be very engaging for the viewers. And also, he doesn't have too much personality compared to the rest of the team, other than to be a leader.
Well,
that's right.
I think the same argument could be made for. I'm going to turn my camera off again and be all ominous. I think the same argument could be made for Michelangelo. In fact, I think it could be made more so for Michelangelo that he's a bit bland, because his whole thing is, I'm here to make jokes. And while that's an enduring character trait, one that I share with him, at the end of the day, and I can stand to this, I can speak to this, that is not super useful when you are fighting ninjas. And a lot of times, I think Mikey gets in the way. Like, Michelangelo will always be there to make me laugh. And he'll always be there to make me cry when he talks about how much he loves his brother.
Oh, so Ralph doesn't get
But
in the way
out
of
of everybody, he is probably the weakest of the turtles. And if it's not him, it's Donatello.
Hey.
I mean, there's a reason he needs those machines.
Hold on, wait a second. Leo, so you're telling me that Ralph's not the weakest? You know, your brother who keeps getting in your way from time to time, you keep having arguments? Because
I will contend to the day I die that Raph is probably the worst Ninja Turtle. However, I do have to say that Mikey is also getting in the way. Imagine that one friend who keeps making jokes when everything is super serious. And I have to argue against myself a little bit. Mikey isn't two-dimensional. He has a lot of heart, and I think that's his best trait. There are specifically scenes where you'll see everybody really upset that Splinter is gone in the movies or the shows, and it will go to Mikey, and he's the one crying. There's a lot of heart to be gotten from Michelangelo, but at the same time, if you compare him to Leonardo, Leo out of the three is the most disciplined and the most ready to listen out of the four. I guess three, because of what we're arguing, is the most disciplined and ready to listen to Splinter. He acknowledges that he's not always right. And when it really comes down to it, I think Leo is probably the best fit to lead the team. And because of that, I think that makes him the best turtle, because it's his leadership that gets them their wins, which is beautifully orchestrated in the Nickelodeon series. It's touched upon in the 2003 series, and of course the original movie.
Well, at least in light of the mental health stuff, at least Mike's not afraid to cry.
I definitely agree with that, but at the same time, sometimes you need tears, and sometimes you need actions. And Leo's always there for actions, and
like
Raph, as much as I hate him, will always be there to get angry and punch a wall. But I remember you were saying Donatello is the most stable, and I have to disagree, because he's too smart for his own good. The poor boy is very scatterbrained, to the point where he can't really focus on one thing. In a lot of the different versions, he ends up constantly getting distracted. I can specifically bring up the Nickelodeon series, which I've seen every episode of, where he has a crush on April, and that gets in the way of his actions a lot. He lets it control him a bit. Also, in the original movie, I mean, I love Donnie, but out of all of the turtles in that original movie, I feel like Donnie got the least to do, and because of that, didn't really shine or do anything important. Like, Mikey brought the heart, as we've brought it up. Leo was leading the team, and we got to see his side of it. Raph got a lot of focus on his anger about the situation, and Donnie was just kind of there. I mean, he was trying to figure out the plan, but at the same time, he didn't do a lot.
He was probably just drinking tea with Uncle Iroh, who was Splinter.
Why not? But yeah, Mel, do you want to go?
Sure. I'm going to attack you both at once.
I mean, you can. Callum still gets to attack you, though. So after you're done, Callum still got one.
Well, after hearing what mostly you've said and parts of what Callum said, you guys are totally flawed with what you said. So first since you talked a little bit more about your character, and I'll have to say a lot of stuff you kind of contradicted yourself. So yes, Leonardo may be the leader, but he's a brown-nosing leader. Even to the point where, Splinter at times has called him out, but because of his really shitty leadership role, would defy him. He's a flawed leader. He's more self-centered and more self-absorbed, and which leads to Raffi. Since nobody has a Raffi thing, I might as well knock all three of these turtles down.
Credit, he's learning.
And that's another problem with Leo and Raph. Majority of the time, they were butting heads, especially when they started getting more development in the show and different personalities. Well, as yes, Michael was the heart and the most emotional one. Majority of the time, he was the party dude. Had no structure, had no, care in the world. At the most critical, all of them, in a sense, were one-sided and have been for a long time. Leonardo being the leader, Raph being the bad one, and Michelangelo being the party dude, the fun one. Whereas Donatello, in my opinion, is the most underrated. You say that he's that Leonardo's the backbone? No. Donatello has always been. He's not only the one that, yes, you can argue that he's the nerd and the tech guy.
You could argue that Mike is the backbone.
Let her finish, Cal.
Yeah.
But he's literally the backbone. You need you need to get into a building, Donatello's got you. You need a Volkswagen to pretty much, turn into this epic Swiss Army knife of a fucking car. Donatello's got you. And even, though Michael has, been involved in a lot of Leo and Raph's, butting heads, they all got caught up with each other, while Donatello stuck to his, guns. And that's another thing I'll argue with Leo. It's just like Leo hasn't always listened and done what he's told. It's always been Donatello who's done it. He's never majority of the time he's just like, hey, we have a mission to do, and you guys are too busy fighting with each other. We're brothers at the end of the day, and let's just get this done. Well, even though he's the one that they don't listen to because they're so full of themselves. Even Michelangelo, who is, yes, the sweetest one when it comes to emotional bits, but at the end of the day, he still gets too emotionally involved. Whereas Donatello, he is the backbone. He's the one that without him, the group wouldn't be able to do a lot of their feats.
So, Callum, do you have anything to say to all that? Sort of like to end this first round of arguing?
Now, like I said, I was going to give a good college student argument, but hey, you could see these characters as college students.
Well, hence the name.
Is that your argument? They should go to college? Where'd he go? Callum? Did he just duck out?
I think so.
Are you alive? What happened? What? Are you going to argue, or are you just going to say the turtle should go to college?
Okay, I'll give a bit more of an argument. Yeah, it is true that he's a smart guy. He would let them in, but aside from doing all that, what does he actually do? At least Mike probably does a few more practical things than.
He does everything. Michael just shoves pizza in his face.
We had to let you finish, Mel. Cal's got to finish too. You'll have your chance in round 2.
So yes, you could say that Don is putting is back into some of the technical stuff that he's doing. Yeah, he's doing the planning. Yeah, he's doing some of the work. But like we said before, he gets scatterbrained, and in some of the stories, he's barely even involved. Mike has more screen time than him, and is therefore a bit more useful. As much as he can stuff pizza in his face most of the time, he at least brings them hard and pushes the turtles to keep fighting on.
Yeah, I have to bite my tongue because what you just said was inaccurate.
Well, we're about to enter round 2. So do you want to start, Mel?
No, you guys go. I'm not going.
I'll hold on. I'm holding off, so I think you gotta go. Since you, I think you gotta go.
You got no, because
I don't wanna. I don't wanna. No.
Okay.
Callum can't go. He just went.
Chris, pick a number between 1 through 5.
We're doing this again.
Yep. It's only fair.
Just have Callum pick the number so Chris doesn't have to turn on his mic.
Okay. I'll do it. I've got a number.
Okay, except for this, I am.
It's 1 through 5.
Yeah, but except for this time, whoever picks the farthest away from the number has to go first.
1 to 5. Okay. I got a number.
Okay, Mel, you go first.
Okay, my number is 1.
My number's 5. 4? Damn it. So I had to go first.
Yeah.
Wait, is it whoever's the farthest has to go first, or? I'm confused.
Just go.
Did you say farthest goes first?
Go.
No, I think it's you.
Just do it.
Fine, I'll go. Are you going to go first, or am I?
You said it before I could say it, so go.
Okay, fine. I will volunteer to not take the last spot, which I want. But I would like to make the argument that while Donatello certainly is making those machines, and while he is definitely an asset to the group, I think he is at his best as a support. Like, quite frankly, I don't think Donnie could be the leader. Like, I don't think he could handle that. And to call him the backbone, like, honestly, I think that's a bad statement, because if anything, Donnie's the brain. He's not the backbone, he's the brain. The backbone is Leo, because Leo is the one making these plans that Donnie needs to make machines for. Leo is the one giving Donnie instructions. I'll remind you that when Leo told Donnie to not share the cure, like when in the Michael Bay second film, Out of the Shadows, the idea of a cure is thrown around, and Leo says, "Don't do that, Donnie," and Donnie just listens. And I think that goes to sort of speak that even though this is something that we view as, oh, Leo's being a dick, there's actually a lot of different sort of criteria to that decision. Like, for example, they're more useful as turtles, and they've lived their whole life as turtles. They don't know what that serum is going to do. So Leo makes a decision, and Donnie just goes with it. I think that without Leo's guidance, there are a lot of situations that the turtles would just be stuck. Like, for example, if Michelangelo tried to lead the team, I feel like they wouldn't even do a mission. They just go to Pizza Hut and they'd eat a bunch of pizza. There's no...
Maybe go to a skate park.
Yeah, there's no, like, mission there. Like, and with Donatello, I feel like he could at least start the mission, but when it comes to the harder choices of, do we retreat? Do we keep fighting? Do we leave somebody behind? Donnie wouldn't be able to make those choices. And, of course, everybody is going to view the person in charge as kind of a dick, because they have to make the decisions that other people can't. And for Leo's run, I think he's doing a pretty solid job. Like, he did make a choice to where he did make several choices, like including that one where he refused the cure, that are questionable. But you know he has a reason for making those choices. It isn't just, I want to be a dick. It's, no, this is the safest option for my family, which I'm trying to take care of. He isn't blinded by anger like Raph. He isn't distracted with his own thoughts like Donnie. And he isn't in his own world like Mikey. He's just trying to do what's best. And in the end, I think for the most part, he succeeds. They beat Shredder. They beat the Foot Clan. They usually succeed. I truly think that out of the options, Leo is the backbone. If I had to assign everybody a role, Donnie, of course, is the brains. Mikey is the heart. Leo's the backbone. And Raph is just... I wouldn't say that. Raph is... I don't know, the foot. Raph is the middle finger.
I would say in a realistic sort of situation, Raph would be the bronze or the brawn.
That's what I meant.
He's the muscle.
Raph is the eyebrows that are pierced down to make an angry face.
You're really coming after Raph. He's not even the turtle that got
I am
picked,
not a fan of Raph.
Which is surprising because he's the most popular one of the show, which that will lead to my argument, but go ahead.
Yeah, just to finish off what I was saying with this argument. Yeah, I understand that Donnie does a lot of things that are important to stopping the Foot Clan. He creates machines. He, of course, has to sort of explain the techno battle.
It's safe to say we're going to acknowledge that every single turtle plays a part.
Yes, of course. But I think if we had... The question was, which turtle is the best? And if you really break it down, I think Leo is the one that is most consistently in all the other versions doing what he believes is right. He isn't blinded by his own thoughts or anger or wanting to have fun. He's just trying to keep his family safe and help people. And I view that as admirable. So with that, I'm done with my argument. I'll do final thoughts after you guys give your second arguments.
Even though you're
Mel, would you like to go?
Callum, go ahead.
Okay, if you want to go. If not, we can play the game again.
No, I was just saying, even though you were going to pick Don originally.
I mean, Donatello is my favorite Ninja Turtle. I'm not going to deny that, but I am sticking by every argument I am saying right now.
Very good, very good. Do you want to say something, Mel?
I guess not.
Hello?
Oh.
Callum asked if you wanted to say anything.
I said you go ahead.
All right. I suppose there's other things to do. Mike, from time to time, stumbles upon ways to stop certain contraptions that were going to intoxicate the cities, like he did in the recent Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which was awesome. And,
the key word is stumbles. It's an accident.
But yeah, but he still contributes to the team. He saved the day from time to time. It's a central task whilst all the other turtles are doing their shtick. And Mike is up there just, albeit not knowing the full details, but he's providing he's helping out some of the turtles get certain details right and eventually stops the device and saves the day. So yeah, don't underestimate the fun party goer.
Do you have any specific arguments? Because we've sort of been arguing against you. Do you have anything negative to say about Leo or towards the arguments being presented to you, or Donatello and the arguments in that right?
Right. I think I've already said the majority of things, but I'll see if I can come up with some other negative things on the fly. I mentioned that Leo is kind of bland and is a brown nose. Well, it was Mel who said he was a brown nose, to be more specific, but yes, he is kind of a brown nose, bland person. It is true that he does provide essential leadership qualities, but yeah, he's just kind of bland, and he has much to learn. He's getting more advice from Splinter. Well, of course, he's learning, so I respect that. And as for Dawn, I've already mentioned that he's scramble-brained, and he can get distracted from time to time, almost as much as Mike, ironically enough. And as much as he does provide the majority of the gadgets, Dawn is just kind of in the background most of the time, which is a bit unfortunate.
It is.
Yeah.
You remind me.
Okay, Mel, I think this is your last argument, and then we'll go into final thoughts about everything.
Okay, so before I get more into Donatello, I think I'm just going to come in guns blazing and attack like your guys one at a time.
Okay.
So I think I'll start off with Mike, because Michelangelo is, honestly, no offense, is the easiest one to break down.
Yeah.
Really rough. So at the end of the day, though, kind of like Raph and Leo, ever since the Turtles developed their own personalities, you all pretty much, especially Mike, haven't really grown since the early 90s. You have not. You've always
I strongly disagree with that, but I can't argue right now.
And this is what I mean. Because I haven't seen, like, the Batman versus Ninja Turtles as much as I want to. And I haven't seen, like, the most recent Ninja Turtles show. At least not in completion, but I have seen bits and pieces. But you see, here's the problem with the three of them, especially with Michelangelo. You guys haven't really grown out of your personality or archetypes. At the end of the day, Mike is kind of useless. Yes, he may have some heart and more emotion compared to the other three, and he might be the heart. However, at the end of the day, he's the cowabunga dudes. Let's eat pizza and just sit around.
I could say the same thing for all the Turtles, technically speaking.
You can't argue right now, Cal. I want to, too. I'm here with my fisticuffs, like, let me at it.
Yes, the pizza and the cowabunga things, you know, are all is like the main part of the family.
But it is Mikey's thing.
Yeah, it's Mikey. Exactly. Thank you. It's Michelangelo's thing. And honestly, it would be terrifying to see him as the leader. He really doesn't bring anything to the table besides being the comedy relief. That's been his stereotype. It's been that way for a while. Like, at least with Raph and Leo, you can see them fight. Not saying that you haven't seen Michael fight, but in comparison to the other three, he's the worst at it. He's also the worst when it comes to training. It's, you know, if he was the leader, they wouldn't go on missions. Majority of the time, they would be partying it up and eating food and just chillaxing and not worrying about, you know, the problems and the crimes as much. And you see that from Michelangelo over and over and over again. So out of the four of them, yours is, you know, one of the many that haven't grown since they first came out. And no offense, it could also be argued too that he's the baby of the group. It has been told in different variations that he is the youngest. And yeah, that's kind of a young sibling, you know, stereotype personality, is that they're the more lax one. You know, Splinter's not as harsh on him only because he's the baby and nothing more. Otherwise, Splinter doesn't have a reason to not be harsh on, you know, Michelangelo, whereas compared to like the other three, they're older and they're obviously treated differently, and you see that. And Mikey's just, in my personal opinion, like, he's not the one fighting. He's not the one making the gadgets. He's just stuffing his face majority of the time. And arguably the only active thing he does is skateboarding, which has come in handy. Do not get me wrong from time to time, but when the chips are down, he's really the most useless. And unlike Donatello, the most popular ones are unfortunately Raph, Leo, and Michelangelo. But you see, that's just based on popularity status, because that's where I'll argue with, Donatello being in the background, because up until, in recent years, nobody identified with the nerd. They all wanted to either be the party guy or the brooding guy or the honorable leader type.
That would explain why Don's in the background.
And honestly, that's like your weakest excuse, is because at the end of the day, the background thing is only because of the viewers and because of popularity demands. Otherwise, their personalities in general, especially Mike's, do not have a warrant otherwise. And that's what we'll get to next.
Okay, Mel, go ahead and either argue against me, or I don't know if you want to argue against me now, or if you want to go into your final thoughts. It's up to you.
No, but, I said I would take you on, and I'm going to make it quick. So, you.
Yeah.
Leo. You kind of have the same problem as, Mikey, but at least, with Callum's argument, he didn't try to say stuff that didn't really exist. Like
I must make the argument that you yourself said you're not caught up to date with all the Ninja Turtles. So maybe I said things.
I still am pretty caught up in comparison, just to show her a movie.
Okay, just making sure.
But in the second movie, yes, Don did listen, but this just shows his character even more, that he is not so full of himself like the other three. He only listened to Leo because, unfortunately, Leo is the leader, and they were all trained to listen to higher authority. Don didn't really have a choice. And also, too, that was fucked up on Leo's part. Yes, it may be true that they did not know what that, concoction would have done to them. But the fact that Leo is just as selfish as Raph, I don't believe, why people even defend him at all. His motives are, yes, he is a leader, but he's not only a brown noser to Splinter, but he's also, too, he's vain in his own ways because he's the leader. It's his way or the highway. He's the oldest mentality, and you have to listen to him. And that's a sense of pride, and that's why Leo has always been one of the worst leaders of all time in any cinema, because people don't look at that at all. And the fact that he was that selfish and prideful to keep that away, at least with Rafi, as much as, I can agree that he is just brooding to be brooding, and he is the asshole of the group, but he at least puts his family in mind, and you can argue the same with Leo, but that never hits him until it's too late majority of the time. Otherwise, he has this complex of, I'm the leader because Splinter said I am, and you have to listen to me. He doesn't care about their feelings. Like, look what happened in that movie alone. When they found out that Leo deliberately told Donatello, don't tell him. He doesn't care what the other turtles usually have to say 90% of the time. He just cares that he is the leader, and that he's such a disorganized leader where he's almost cost the other turtles their lives. So I argue that he's not only the worst out of all three of them, he's also, like Raph and Michelangelo, he hasn't really changed a lot besides being like, I'm the leader and I say so. Whereas with Don, he's at least changed somewhat. Yes, he's still stuck in the archetypes. I'm just the tech guy, but honestly, without him, this is why I say he's the backbone too. And yes,
Hello? You're going out again.
He is the only one that showed.
Nope, going out again.
He just wants, things to go smoothly. Like every time Raph and Leo butt heads, anyway.
Transition this into your final thoughts.
Right, I'll transition it. Donatello's the most underrated. Yes, but that's just solely by popular demand. I just looked up a list. If you were to go in order, Raph is only the most popular by 5%. Then there's Michelangelo, and then unfortunately Donatello gets the very lowest score of 3%. But you're not seeing what he actually really does in the group. He is the brains. He is the one that if you need something done, he will get it done. And you can say that he's scatterbrain, but he at least has a reason why with all that chaos and, confusion amongst the group. So in my opinion, not only is Donatello the best one, but he's the most underrated. And in my opinion, he's at least, even if it's not by a lot, he's the one who's shown the most growth since their first release. And I'm done.
And with that, I think I'm just going to throw the towel.
You're going to throw the towel?
Yep.
I'm not going to do it. I think I can do this. My final thoughts, I won't make a bunch of arguments, but my final thoughts are Leo has come a far way since his first debut. In the Nickelodeon series, which I keep referencing because I truly believe with all my heart it's the best one, we see Leo didn't choose to be the leader. It was thrusted upon him by Splinter. We see how he deals with becoming the leader, how he gets to that point where his brothers do trust him with their lives, and every word that he says means something. Yes, Raph and Leo still butt heads. Of course they're going to butt heads. It's Raph and Leo. Of course, there's a lot of situations where Donnie is like, you're an idiot, Leo. Here's a smart techno-babble thing. He's Donatello. He's going to know more things. But in terms of a situation of who do they trust most with their lives, they always turn to Leo. Leo is the one who is making the plan and executing the plan. Leo is the leader for good reason. We see in the show, as they're dealing with the Foot Clan and TCRI and everything that's going on with the Krang, that Leo is struggling, but at the same time holds true. And I still stick by that Donatello couldn't be the leader. He's more of a support. He's more of this person who makes the job easier, who helps a lot. But I still believe with everything I have that without Leo, the team wouldn't be as strong and couldn't do what they did. I know back in the day that Leo had a lot of, just anti-development. He was just very like, I'm the leader, so you have to listen to me. But now he's like, I have earned the position of leader, and I know I have earned that position because you listened to me. And I truly believe that modern day Leo is a very good leader. I do not think he's the worst leader in the world. If I had to pick worst leader in the world, I think Zap Brannigan from Futurama is probably the worst leader in the world.
I didn't say that Leo was the worst. I just said
you said he was one of them.
The worst.
Okay, well, final thoughts. I think Leo has actually, in my opinion, had the most growth. And because of that, we have seen the person who used to be, you're going to listen to me because I'm the leader, go to, I am going to get us through this because I care about everybody on this team. You are all my brothers, and I will not let you die. Just follow my lead, and we'll get through this.
It all comes down to character growth. The reason I threw in the towel was because, sorry, Mikey, you haven't had much growth.
Actually, in the Nickelodeon series, Mikey has his time to shine, let me tell you. But you threw in the towel.
To be honest, I've yet to see the Nickelodeon show. But I hear it's really good.
It's so good. All right, Chris, and I guess Cal can share an opinion to this as well because he ruined the Tal. So he gets to be a judge. We need to know your opinions.
All right, Chris, it's all on you.
This is like where we discover he's dead, and he's been dead this entire show.
It's gonna stop the recording. Oh no!
He just never answers, and we're here just like, what we do?
In limbo.
Chris, Papa, can you hear me? Okay, Chris, try to answer within the next 5 minutes. Cal, you go on and judge as well, because both of you matter now because you ruined the Tal.
Honestly, I wasn't listening well because... Are you kidding me, Chris?
What did he say?
He said he was working on school stuff.
And? Was he not listening?
Apparently not.
Callum, I guess it's up to you. You were listening.
Oh, no. He left out a part because I just looked at the chat too, but he said but what he did here, Donnie wins for him.
All right, Cal, do you have a vote? Do you also say Donnie?
Yeah, I also say Donnie. Sorry, Neil.
Yes!
All right, well, I tried. I mean, Donnie's my favorite. I do believe that Leo is the best leader out of all of them, though.
It's okay, Chris.
Well, I'm not saying I was never arguing that Donatello should be the leader. I don't know if that
that was sort of my argument. Like, I was sort of like, oh, well, here's why being the leader is so important. Like, that's what I was trying to transition to.
Right.
Here's to all the nerds.
Cop out argument, though. Being like, he's the best. I don't think it's a cop out.
Because he, the one that's leading theoretically is the one that has to make all the tough choices and make sure the turtles survive. The Teetles. The Teetles. The Teetledums. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Teetledums.
Sleeping on the streets. Bomb power.
Defending Wonderland. Weirdo power. All right. So are we wanting to go into more topics, or are we going to do one by Chris and then end off the episode?
I think just, I haven't been keeping like full track of.
I think we're approaching the 2-hour mark.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it's best Chris pick the rando topic and then we, wrap this up for now.
Do you want to go with my topic or one from Chris?
Let's take one from Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put yours in your pocket. We'll get it later.
We'll talk about you next episode.
Spend it at the candy store.
Come get your drugs,
going to the candy store. Gonna get yourself some candy.
Hey, buddy, get yourself some nice powder.
Yeah. But I honestly kind of wish I would have picked Mikey, just because I really think with what I know about Mikey, because of the Nickelodeon series, I think I could have won with Mikey. But I also would have said that about Leo, and I do love Donnie. He's my favorite turtle. Now we wait for Chris to think of things for us to talk about on the show. It'll take an hour or so. Callum will set and clap. Mel will hit her face as I talk with a slap, because she doesn't like it when I sing. But it's kind of my thing. Okay, go ahead.
Chris has come up with a question. He's going to ask us, who is your favorite Jim Henson created character?
Now, this is a very good topic, Sensei. Oof. There's so many.
I got one.
Go ahead,
What?
I hate to be the cop-out. but I think I have to go with Kermit. I mean, it's Kermit the friggin' Frog, dude. He's super iconic. Just here's the thing. I've always said this. If you can make a sock puppet a full dimensional character, you can do anything. And that's what Kermit the Frog is, man. I know all the words to Rainbow Connection.
Oh yeah, same here.
I specifically love the heart of Kermit, but even he has some really funny lines, especially in the first movie where he's constantly saying miss by accident, where he's trying to avoid being turned into like frog leg stew, and his little like thing with Fozzie. Oh, and his relationship with Piggy is just hilarious, especially to how straight man he's being about it. I can't. I love Kermit the Frog. He's my guy. I love Fozzie. I love all the Muppets. But if you put a gun to my head and say, choose, I really like Kermit the Frog.
Yeah, just go past the fork in the road.
Yes.
Kermit the Frog here.
That leads to me because, like, I should also clarify that I also knew he worked on Sesame Street, right?
He did.
Okay, so just to clarify with people, I've actually never grew up with Sesame Street. So my characters are from the Muppets, and I would have to say my favorite is actually a duo set, Statler and Waldorf.
Why does that not surprise me?
Because she's a cynical to both of them.
That's a good one, Waldorf.
Exactly, like they've always just been my spirit animals, and especially when I develop like better friendships with people, that's how I am with just like if it was me and Neil, and let's say like Neil and I were ever on the phone more occasionally, or we were just like, hey, I'm coming to visit, and we just hung out and we actually started developing. That's me with any friend that I get close to, and they're just witty, and I do love the cynicalness of them. I love the critiquing, and yeah, they're my spirit animal.
Something else I really like about them is just how much Fozzie hates them. Like everybody else sort of tolerates them, but every time Fozzie sees them, like one of my favorite scenes with them, weirdly enough, is in the Muppets Wizard of Oz. And it's just this scene that isn't really in the Wizard of Oz. It's original to this version. It's like, we got to get over this big chasm. But as you're going over it, you know, the spirits are going to mock you. And when the spirits come out to mock, it's Statler and Waldorf. And they almost make Fozzie fall to their deaths, his death, because they're insulting him as he's trying to walk across this chasm. And it's so funny. I also like
so good.
I also like their song in A Muppets Christmas Carol, the whole "We're Marley and Marley,
our hearts are painted black."
Yeah, I like it. Like, I love Statler and Waldorf. I love the friggin' Muppets. I love them all.
I love all the Muppets, and I don't think that there's not one I hate at all. I don't think nobody has a Muppet that they truly hate, but they are just like my dynamic duo. And also too, just the way they play off each other is like, that's friendship goals for anybody. It's just like, right. And also too, in my opinion, even though you can say this about all of them, but I think just by a thread, they're the most relatable.
Oh yeah, they're borderline like they're actually humans. So you could definitely make the argument they're the most realistic of all the Muppets.
Yeah, it's not just because of the obvious that they are the, you know, pretty much the most human looking, but also too, it's just like they pretty much play like how most people I've at least met can act, being like they can be funny, but they can be shady, they can be witty, but they can also too, you know, have their lines as well. But they just don't have like always a positive look on things, but they also don't have always a negative review on things, whereas like some characters are more on the positive, some are more on the negative, whereas they are just kind of like that, hey, they're not only literally human and relatable that way, but they're figuratively the most human being, like they play it in the middle of being. Is
it weird if I think Kermit is the most human? Because Kermit, like, not even kidding, did a TED Talk.
He did.
Yeah, he did an actual freaking TED Talk. And, like, I think Kermit has the biggest heart of all the Muppets, which is why I love him so much.
Right, whereas I think...
I love Stantler and Wardolph, though.
Yeah, whereas I think Stantler and Wardolph, though, they're just, like, they may not have the heart, but they just have the, more humanistic like features, not only just physically but emotionally, where it's like, yes, they still are the Muppets, and you gotta love all the Muppets.
Yeah.
And I do love Kermit, of course, because he's the heart. He has more heart, and he cares about how everybody feels despite how they are. But with them, it's more of a realistic human approach, where it's just like, hey, I'm not always going to be like, I'm here for you if you need it. But at the same time, like, fuck your feelings at the same time. They're very bait and switch, and I love it.
Yeah, I agree. Cal, do you have an answer to this question?
Now, I wish I could branch out to some of other Jim Henson's works, because there are so many characters that I love, but I'll get to them in a moment.
So you're going to talk about Hoggle from Labyrinth. I'm glad we finally got to this discussion. I knew when we started the show we would get to Hoggle, but I didn't know it would be today. So go ahead and talk us about how you love Hoggle.
Sure, yeah. There's some of the Labyrinth characters that they're quite fun to be, especially
Hoggle. The way he peed in that one scene, I still cry.
The fairy, yeah. So there's also the Cookie Monster from Sesame Street. You just gotta love him. He's just obsessed with cookies, and it's so fun. He's just so obsessed with cookies.
Callum, I'm gonna tell you something, and I might make your night telling you this. So, have you seen the Sesame Street YouTube channel where they do a bunch of movie parodies, but with Cookie Monster?
Yeah.
They're hilarious. I mean, they're still educational and for the show, but they get really funny. They did like friggin' I'm sorry to go on a tangent here, but they did Game of Thrones with Grover.
Oh, I have
they did
seen
like
that one.
the Cookie of Wall Street and the Veggies, which is their Avengers parody. It's just all so funny. Sesame Street is still going, man. But go on, Callum. Who is your character?
Other mentions. Chris was mentioning another character from the Dark Crystal, and I'll mention a few. I'll mention Chamberlain, the most cunning Skeksis out of them all, who will slither his way to whatever power dynamic he wants to do with his cunning, with his lies, and his infamous and also Ogra, just feminism. Ogra's quite funny and quite cool. But in terms of Jim Henson characters that I love, it's a tire between Swedish Chef and Animal.
I definitely think, like, I think Animal is arguably the least human of the Muppets, and because of that, we love him.
Yeah.
Like, everybody likes Taz the Tasmanian Devil, and Animal is the Taz of the group.
Yeah.
Woman!
I love Animal so much. I relate to him because I also do drumming, so I understand his energy that he puts into it. And I can.
Okay, I don't want to be that asshole, but when you said DR, I really thought you were going to say, I also do drugs, and when I do them, I act just like Animal.
No. I also do drumming, and I'm also quite loud and energetic. I can get carried away with certain things, and his energy is just so funny. Every time he comes on screen, I'm just guaranteed to have a giggle. Like, whether it's some YouTube app where he's going, like, for Facebook, like. Or even the Muppets Christmas Carol, he just comes on screen and then you see his eyebrows, and he just wakes up. Quiet! Everyone shuts up. Carries on, and the bit that really gets me in hysterics is the same scene where they're doing a slow dance and Animal's just going ding, ding, just a slow waltz dance. But then Animal just goes, no, I can't take it anymore. He just goes, and everyone just starts dancing, and he is just hysterical.
Also, a lot of people forget this, but technically, by all accounts, Animal saved Kermit's life, along with like all the other Muppets, because that last scene, if Animal wouldn't have like grown giant, Doc Hopper would have shot all the Muppets, and we would have had to watch that as kids.
Yeah,
that would have been gritty. That would have. Imagine the entire movie of the Muppets, but Animal doesn't grow big, and Doc Hopper just mows them all down like fire.
Yikes! But there's also just other scenes where him just talking normally and him trying to be calm. That gets me hysterical as well. Like there's one episode of the show where he's meditating with somebody, and will feel the energy. Are you feeling calm? I said, are you feeling calm? Oh, yeah. And then he says, feel the energy. And then he wakes up all the way to your toes. Looking at his toes, like, what?
You also brought up Swedish Chef.
Yeah, Swedish Chef. He also gets me in hysterics. Just the ridiculously stereotypical Swedish voice and his ridiculous, combined with his ridiculous cooking, that just always never fails to make me smile.
You want to know my favorite Swedish Chef scene, Callum?
Yeah.
It's a bit of an underrated one. It's in the Muppets Holiday Special. The one that, like, essentially, a little bit of context. The entire special, Swedish Chef has been trying to catch this turkey. The Sesame Street characters came in a little while ago. And the turkey is finally caught, and he's like, hey, listen. You could kill me, and you could cook me up, but don't you want to get a bigger bird? He opens the door. Big Bird is standing outside. Swedish Chef sees Big Bird and just throws all his utensils, looks at him, and just goes, oh, dar. And then there's a scene later where he tries to, he lures Big Bird into the kitchen. And then he tries to kill Big Bird while his back is turned. And of course he doesn't do it because, once again, that would have been very dramatic to see as a child.
Almost as dark as a dark crystal. Mm.
That may have been sadder than I'm a Bluebird, watching Swedish Chef cook and present Big Bird to all the other Sesame Street characters.
Oh gosh.
This tastes a little funny, Swedish Chef. Almost seems a little familiar. Elmo is concerned.
Oh.
Stantler and Wardolph are digging it. It's the natural way for flightless birds. Deaf to the dodo, deaf to Big Bird. Oh!
And we ruined the childhood.
And we ruined the childhood.
Oh, sorry that I left.
Oh, you're fine. We talked about Swedish Chef cooking and eating Big Bird, which almost happened
in the Christmas special. But he's done other shenanigans, whether it be cooking chocolate mousse by getting chocolate and then just spreading it on a mousse, or getting donuts by shooting holes through these dough cakes that he got, or paying homage to popcorn, Swedish Chef, and Animal. They're the highlights for me.
I mean, I definitely love Fozzie as well. Like, Fozzie is also very...
Animal's the best.
My brother has come in. He thinks Animal's the best.
Animal's always great.
How think he is? I know he is.
Whatever.
Animal's the best.
Yeah, sure. Okay. And with that, we've talked about the Muppets. But I could talk for hours about the Muppets, so I think this might be a good time to end the stream.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
So let's go through and say where we can be found and say who we are, and I'll try to point the camera at my cat while we do it.
Or your brother.
I don't want to point the camera at my brother.
Hey, come back, brother.
No.
I almost want to point the camera at like my fur baby, but he's just like, just love me. I don't want to be on the camera right now, mother.
All right, Callum, where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube, where I recently uploaded my events of going to the Glasgow Comic Con, where I met Charles Martinet himself. And I'll be doing more stuff later on. And I am also on Instagram, and I'll probably be posting, since later this week, me and my family are going off to Belfast for the October break. I don't often go to Ireland, so that'll be great. I am on Stardust, of course, and some other social medias. And also you can find Ron there now. I recently received a message with Ron in the woods, who's made a special announcement. Take a listen. Let's give me a moment.
Talking about this. For this fall, I'm gonna hope that I can start something a long time. You see, I love you. So what I'm gonna do, I'll y'all or anybody else wants to talk about their love, their passion, and show the outside of what you do. So if you don't need
I can't hear him with the audio, but I assume that's him foreshadowing the future.
Yeah. He was basically saying, foreshadowing new content.
Foreshadowing the possibility. I mean, first things first, guys. It's been a while. We got to go get him out of the woods. I'll get the car. I'll go get up my survival kit. Mel, do you own your machete still? Do you have your machete?
I mean, why am I the serial killer of the group?
But do you have the machete?
I legally cannot say on a podcast. Okay.
Okay, bring it. Bring it. Callum, bring the puppets. They'll be bait. The puppets will be bait. Chris, you have GPS, right? Chris, get your GPS. We gotta go find Ron. So we'll see you next time. Mel, say where they can find you. I'm just gonna go get the Jeep.
Okay, you do that. I don't know why I'm dragged into this shit in the first place. Anyways, so you can find me on Instagram at imperfect_vanity, all lowercase, of course. You can also find me on Stardust at imperfect_vanity, with a capital I and a capital V, and just anywhere that has like either one of those usernames, or you can type in "Hey You." I'm pretty much like anywhere. I would promote my TikTok, but that's only if, people actually want to follow me, but it would be the same as my Instagram.
Neil?
I am Dr. Knealetapus. You can find me here. I actually might be streaming again tonight. I'll probably be streaming a lot tomorrow because an opportunity has arose where I have a bit of free time. I'm also found on Stardust as Dr. Knealetapus. Here this weekend, I think I'm going to be in the woods trying my best to find Ron. Because, good God, he's probably really deep in the woods now.
You know, seeing how it's Halloween, he might scare Slender Man by now.
Yeah, he might be in a horror. Oh gosh, maybe he's in a cabin in the woods. Or maybe it's more positive and he's in the woods singing, like, into the woods, I have to leave, I have to go.
Anyway, I'll just go get my car keys, and I need to go.
Yeah, I'll go get the flamethrower. I'm sure it will be useful somehow. Goodbye, everybody.
And we'll also post everybody's, like Chris's information.
Yeah, Chris, of course, is the director, and we love him. And check out his Instagram because he does arts. He does arts, guys.
And we'll post everybody else's Ron's and Epic Voice Guys and all that, and and we'll catch you next time on the flip side.
Chris also has a Twitch channel. Please check that out. And tell him that Neil loves him. Because he won't accept it from me.
What makes you think he'll accept it either way? Because it's you. Anyways.
Because we haven't tried that yet.
Anyway, we'll have all of, the sources and all the things in the description below. But otherwise, good night, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.